Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily Dvar. And here's a brand new halacha for you. It's for Wednesday, the 5th day of June. Here we go. Today's halacha is about selecting on Shabbos. One of the 39 things that you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. It's called borer, and it basically means types of selection. They used to do this when they worked for the building of the Mishkan, the temple in the desert, when the Jews first built that temple, Mishkan, the one in the desert. When they did, there were 39 different forms of work that they did, and one of them was selecting. They would do that in types of situations like whenever they were making dyes, they would have to select out all the bad pieces and leave back just the colorful stuff that they would then boil up and stuff like that. So selecting was one of the 39 things that they did, and we are not allowed to quote-unquote select. Now, I'm going to give you a classic example of it. Bad selecting would be you're about to eat a piece of watermelon, you see a bunch of big black seeds, so you spend about 10 minutes selecting out all the bad black seeds that you don't want, and then you start eating the watermelon. That would be selecting, and you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. If you ever want to select things on Shabbos in a way that's permissible, it would be permissible as long as you adhere to three guidelines. First of all, you'd have to do the selecting by hand. Okay, but listen to all three. You've got to qualify for all three in order for it to be permissible. You have to do it by hand, which like precludes and says don't use things like sifters and strainers. Okay, so one way is make sure that you're doing it by hand. Secondly, you'd have to make sure that you're doing it for immediate use. In other words, you're about to eat and you're pre-selecting just as you eat, right before you eat, you are preparing what you eat. And that has to be one of the considerations. So if you're doing it with your hand and you're doing it for immediate use, not for preparing for 6 hours later, then those two things have to happen. And here's the third biggie that has to happen. It has to be ochel mitoch hapsolas, which means the food, the good from the bad. In other words, if you want to be selecting, there's mixed nuts in front of you and you want to eat all the cashews and you pick cashew, 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 that's allowed. You're taking the good from the bad, and that's not the selecting that they did in the temple. They selected out the bad from the good. So if you were selecting out bad from good, like those black watermelon seeds, that would make it not permissible. So this might sound a little complicated, but in order to do permissible selecting in, for example, eating on Shabbos, make sure that you're doing these three activities, all of them, and then it will make it permissible. You're doing it by hand, you're doing it for immediate use, and you're taking the good out of the bad. If you're doing that, then you're allowed to do that kind of selecting on Shabbos. If you're in any doubtful situations or things that you know that you do a lot that might be selecting, please speak to your rabbi about it. You're now a little more educated on it, and now you can ask more educated questions about this topic. Thanks for logging on, and log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.